Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Fantastic Four Issue 1. And I think this is a pretty great issue. Now, granted, we didn't get the Fantastic Four reunion in this one, but it did a nice job of seeing how Dan Slott works within the Fantastic Four framework and kind of setting up where he wants to go from here. And I really love the artwork by Sara Pichelli. I really liked her work since she's been working on Ultimate Spider-Man and when I saw her doing stuff there. But I think that she's going to be able to do really good things with the whole cosmic aspect and just give us weird, crazy creatures and everything that Dan will probably get us into. I mean, he opened up doing his Iron Man arc with bringing in Fin Fang Foom. I think he's really going to do some similar interesting stuff in this series. So, the issue starts off, and we see a nice tribute to Steve Ditko, and I really liked how this was done. It didn't seem overbearing or anything. It just fit really well, and then we got into the main aspects of the issue, which we're mainly just seeing where Johnny and Ben are at the moment. We see Ben, of course, is out with Alicia, and she wants to, take in these cats. He's at first kind of reticent about that, but then he's like, I kind of like these things. And Johnny's at a baseball game and everything, and seeing how much of a celebrity he is. But then, suddenly, out of nowhere, we see a Fantastic Four signal shoot off. This, of course, gets Johnny into action, flaming on, and then flying out for it. Of course, Ben's explaining to Alicia that they're gone, and to lead kind of credence to that, Johnny only sees that it's a bunch of kids that got it, and he wants to really punish them for it. So, we then get into a portion where I think is really kind of well done, because granted, if you're reading a Fantastic Four comic book, you kind of know the gist of the Fantastic Four. But since this is number one to help people get into it, we get kind of a rundown of the typical stuff of the Fantastic Four through news reporting on this event. So I think that was a pretty good way to segue into this, kind of give a rundown how this was the anniversary of everything going on with the Fantastic Four, them receiving their cosmic powers, all that kind of stuff, interviewing other people that have been on the Fantastic Four team, like Luke Cage, Crystal, Medusa, She-Hulk, all those kinds of people. So, we see that Jen is deciding to represent the kids because Ben paid for it, interestingly enough. And he just knows that it was a bunch of kids. Now, granted, the wounds of Reed and Sue being gone are vastly more affecting Johnny than Ben. Well, not vastly more affecting. Johnny's more vocal and visible and wants to punch back at what he perceives as a punch, whereas Ben's kind of lost all kind of faith and hope with that. And he's kind of more on the depressed kind of side, whereas Johnny's more on the kind of angry kind of side of this kind of thing. So, it's interesting seeing how they're both kind of dealing with the loss, well, not the loss, the absence of Reed and Sue. So we see that somebody broke into the apartment, and that's how the kids got the Fantastic Four signal gun. Ben's able to rummage around and sees the package. And, oh, good, it's still here. Now, granted, it was coded to them anyway, so they would have just gotten a box that they wouldn't have been able to do shit with. So, as he's opening the package, he's telling this story of kind of a lost adventure, and I'm like, okay, this is probably going to give us seeds of where we're going to be seeing this new kind of villain probably come into play. And see that they had been lost and they were getting help from this being named Astronomica. And, of course, she's like, alright, I can help you find your way home. I got the Stellarex stone in my star sector. It'll help light the way for you back home. And, of course, Sue's like, oh, okay, which one of our powers do we need to use for that? And she's like, well, that's not how this thing works. What it uses is we need your best singer. And this was pretty funny, because Ben's like, that makes no sense. And Reed's like, not exactly. Certain kind of, waves can be attuned to people, so singing theoretically could work pretty well. But I liked how he went into the science and was like, actually, it's not as stupid as you would think. And I'm like, there you go. That's what I miss about Reed Richards not being a central player in certain things going on in the Marvel Universe. He has a very interesting way of getting science to work within the normal world for people to actually understand. Again, he might go into like giant technical aspects, but he'll be like, no, that's not a stupid thing to talk about. So, of course, they like go through and try and figure out who the best singer is. Sue thinks it's her, but everybody else, and even Johnny, knows that it's him. And she's like, what? She even hits Reed about it, being like, yes, subjectively, yours is the best, but objectively, it's Johnny. I don't know how he used that to get out of it. I'm like, yeah. And even her kid's like, Mommy, don't sing. So, and it was pretty funny because they get Johnny ready, and he starts singing Dankeschön, and I just think that was a great song for him to do, and he's able to do it. Alicia's even able to see what's kind of going on, even though she's blind, but, of course, Astronomica's like, well, some things you can see with your heart. And I'm like, yeah, alright, that's pretty cool. So, they got back, then we get back into the present, Ben's explaining that they were able to send her on her way, but as part of a gift, she gave them part of the stone. And he's had it, and he's like, well, this would help me get back home. And I've been lost for a while now, but now I know I'm ready for, like, the biggest adventure of my life. And then he goes and he proposes to Alicia, and she says yes. And I just really liked how well done it was. It didn't seem like over-the-top kind of strange or, like, low-key completely like, oh, you want to get married? No, it was just done in a really nice romantic way where he's like, knocks on her door. He's like already in the position and everything she's feeling, and she's like, oh yeah, she understands it right away, and yeah. We then get cut to them kind of at a restaurant kind of place. Johnny pops in, and Ben asks him to be his best man, and of course this triggers Johnny completely, and he's like, no, the only person who should be your best man is Reed Richards, and of course Ben's claiming that he's ruining this moment. He's like pissed off, and he goes and he's like crying into the sky for Reed to give them a sign that he's out there, that Reed and Sue are out there. And then we actually cut to Reed and Sue, Reed messing with this device, and she's like, you think this is going to work? And he's like, yeah, I mean, you believe in me, and that usually gets me through to doing the impossible, so let's do this. Turn on the machine, and then since Johnny had come back down and was like crying about it and everything and just still broken down about it, we then cut to them scene and we see this blue light and everybody's looking up and all the people that were interviewed is like, holy crap. And we see this giant 4 is floating in light in between the earth and the moon. I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good way to do it. So I liked that part, and it did a very good job of just acclimating us to what Dan Slott's kind of doing with Ben and Johnny and trying to get us ready for the reunion. We then cut to a pretty cool kind of scene, well, a pretty cool portion of it, where we get to Latveria and figuring out what's going on there. And I'm really intrigued to see how this is going to go, because Doom's not being set up as just a villain here, which I like. We'll have to see, of course, how his idea of means and ends go completely out of control. But we see that this woman is like looking for him. She saw lights in Castle Doom. She gets besieged by Doombots, but then of course Doom comes in and just beats the crap out of him. And she's like, oh, I'm Zora Vukovic. The people have been praying for your return. Anybody who knows comics is like, people have been praying for Dr. Doom to return? That's interesting, but we never really get that. I mean, sometimes we get a look of what's going on in Latveria, but it's very intriguing to see how the Latverian people view Doom, because in this way, they view him as a hero and someone that's aligned with the people and want him to come back and help them with all the troubles that they've been going through. And he's like, well, look, I've been a god, I've been a hero, and I've been handsomely for it. But she's like, no, the people need your true face. And Doom's like, well, then I'm going to freely choose this face. And he doesn't have his armor on. His usual Doom armor, his infamous Iron Man armor. He's just got a green cloak and pretty much, not a loincloth, but kind of a skirt kind of thing. So it's almost really, Dan's going to be going kind of in for his sorcerer angle, which I'm like, okay, this could be interesting to see what goes on with him, just focusing on his sorcerer stuff. Though hopefully his tech stuff gets put to use as well. So, of course, Zora starts kind of her own rebellion kind of thing, and Doom kind of comes in the last minute, and the bots were instituting a curfew and everything, but Doom decides to destroy them. He tells Zora not to question him because she's like, yo, you could have used those. He's like, no, I'm going to do this with no armor, no robots, and no help. I want to take this country back with my bare hands, pretty much. And it's like, holy shit, well, by his hands alone. I'm like, yeah, that's Doom. Right there. I'm like, okay, Doom's in interesting hands here. So it's going to be kind of cool to see how he intersects with, like, the Fantastic Four reunion, any other kind of villains, if he's going to be more of a kind of friendly kind of rival more than an antagonistic force against the Fantastic Four. We'll have to see, because you usually get the best out of Doom when he's up against Reed Richards, because they're the best antithesis of each other. They just make each other better when they're knocking off of each other. So that'll be kind of cool. We also, at the end, got a kind of funny thing with the Impossible Man being pissed off that there was no reunion, and then getting a letter saying, yeah, they'll be reunited next month in the next issue. Like, okay, I'll wait for that, but if it doesn't happen... And that was done by Dan and Scotty Young, and I just really liked that thing. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I really liked this issue. We got kind of 2 comics and just a kind of like page at the end, but they worked pretty well, and I really liked how they did this. So I'm really interested to see how Dan's going to go about this. I like the foundation he set, so now we just got to see where he's going to be going. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.